Welcome to our garden off the High Street in Sutton. This is the view from the upstairs balcony, looking over our garden towards the Southerns, and then beyond that you can see the hills beyond Madingley. We normally can see the mast at Over as well. We can't see Haddenham because of the trees. The balcony is covered in wisteria, but it's just had a very serious haircut after it's finished flowering. It was starting to block the view completely. This is looking down towards our lawn and the steps and the large herbaceous beds and the pots and troughs. The experiment this year is to grow tomatoes up here, which is another reason for clearing back the wisteria. As you can see, it's very windy this morning, Saturday, and the sky is very threatening. It's done quite a bit of damage, sadly, to the garden over the last 2 days with the strong wind, but most things have survived quite happily. The houses there sit Southerns, and at the bottom of the garden we have Stewart's Close. That's probably look out across from the balcony in the opposite direction. We're looking out towards Haddenham. The tomato experiment, we've never tried them up here before, but we believe you can never have too many tomatoes. Interesting to see how they get on. The wisteria will need to be kept severely in check to make sure they can get enough light. There are another 3 in a grow bag behind me as well. So this is our terrace on a very windy morning. Everything that's on here usually overwinters inside the conservatory. We have got a wide range of regal pelargoniums, cannas, and a lot of other tender plants like fuchsias. There are a lot of cuttings that are currently rooting themselves happily. I've got quite a lot of spare ones which are there in case anything goes wrong with the ones that are already planted out into the pots. The regal pelargoniums come in all sorts of range of colours: pinks, whites, deep purple and red. They root very, very easily if you put them into compost. There's some rather nice aeoniums which will root if you cut them, the stems, and then stick them into some gritty compost. They root very nicely. They will get quite tall like these, which now need some support. There's a small water feature with some rather nice pond irises in it. It's very nice just to have the sound of the water. There's a little pump in there which gives us the sound of the water. Looking down the garden is a forest of foxgloves at the moment, which are getting rather battered by the wind. And up against the fence we have a rather nice solanum, which is another flowered quite so well as it is at the moment. In amongst there is also a Vermontodendron, which flowers with bright yellow flowers. She got too large last year and has had a serious chop back. As you can see, we look out over the fens from up here, although at the bottom of the garden there are houses in Stewart's Close, so we get a diagonal view out across the fens. Very angry skies this morning, and we look out towards Aldworth and over towards the hills beyond Cambridge. When the trees aren't out, we can actually see Haddenham over the rooftops, but the trees give us a very good screen and make the garden feel very private. More foxgloves. The canes are where the dahlias are already in, and they're currently about 3 inches to 1 foot tall. They're doing quite well. Everything is getting bashed in this wind. Down the steps, all the tubs are full of agapanthus of different varieties, mainly blue, but there are some white ones in there. Some of them are small flowering, some of them are very large flowering. They overwinter in the greenhouse and don't need any attention whatsoever through the winter, except to be kept dry, and they'll cope with a little bit of frost, but they don't want some really hard freeze. Now the wind is really getting up. The foxgloves come from the vegetable plot at the bottom of the garden because they refuse to self-seed up here where we want them. So every year we have to do a trawl through the vegetable plot and replant the foxgloves where we actually would like them to come up in the spring, because they give us such a lovely tall backdrop to the pots. The pots went out very early this year. We risked things from early April and have got away with it because the garden is south facing and we're in a warm and sheltered spot. We haven't been troubled by any frost. Some of the leaves didn't like it and went brown, but there's lots of new growth coming. It's about 3 weeks earlier than we would normally put things out, but we didn't have a lot to do in lockdown. Seemed like a good project and has worked. And more regal pelargoniums mixed in with some more standard geraniums and the odd cactus or two. Another shot of some of the rather lovely regal pelargoniums to show the variety of the colours that we have. The oleanders are coming into flower. They will only flower if it's not wet. If we have rain, the flowers will go brown sadly, but if we do manage a dry spell, they can be very beautiful. They get a serious pruning every year and all this new growth comes up. Rather nice Mahonia, and again the aeoniums. And looking back across the terrace, where there's normally a large umbrella, but of course in this wind that would be asking for trouble. So here we've got the lilies, which are grown in tubs. It's a bit of a fight at the moment to keep the lily beetles away. 2 or 3 times a day at least patrol to pick off lily beetles. There are also some lupins in tubs around the back, which are just starting to flower. If I leave them in the garden, the snails get them. There's a small fig tree, which is a cutting taken off the larger fig tree in the corner. And then we have the baskets. I was given some extra baskets which I didn't really need, but then decided it would be a good idea to make them into spheres to give support for the plants as they grow up through them. There are petunias, fuchsias, more geraniums and begonias, trailing begonias in those, so they should look a picture in a while as they get established. And then on the table you can see something else you can do with the aeoniums. These ones was just cut off the tops of the aeoniums and have been put in some very gritty earth and create a rather nice centerpiece for the outdoor table. More rather nice geraniums, and then behind we have the Phygelius Cape Fuchsia, which this year is growing up without the bugs that have plagued it for the last few years. It seems to be bug free at the moment. It got dug up and chopped back drastically, and that seems to have solved the problem because the grubs overwinter in the earth. So here we are down on the lawn, looking again at the solanum, the steps which are covered in the agapanthus, some lovely blue irises. We have got other colours, but the blue ones are the ones that keep coming back and flower all the time. We actually inherited them with the house 30 years ago. Took a lot out, but they've increased back to the numbers they were when we first moved in. This garden is full of plants that self-seed. We've got a lot of Gladiolus Byzantium, which are these lovely purple mini gladies that are there down with the Aquilegia. They create, well, some years we get a lot, other years we get less, but they put themselves where they like to be. We have a lot of peonies, but they've rather suffered in the looking back up at the house, you can see the wisteria on the balcony, which has just had a very serious haircut. It's been needing that for years, so we finally bit the bullet when the flowers came to an end. You can see the hanging baskets are up already, full of cuttings and begonias. And the doors swinging in the wind. Hard to believe that this is actually very sheltered down here, because it's surrounded entirely by trees and shrubs. The choicea is just starting to go brown. It's been absolutely glorious and white. Another view of some of the irises and an absolute forest of nectarscordums, which used to be classed as alliums but aren't anymore. They're quite interesting. They've got, when they come out, all the flowers point downwards, but as the flowers go over, the seed pods turn vertical and go to the top of the plant. They have seeded themselves absolutely everywhere. Going to the other side, again though they're coming to an end, there are a lot of Camasias, white ones, Camassia alba. They again are seeding themselves around the garden. This lovely pink plant with leaves like an Aquilegia is actually a Thalictrum, I think. This corner of the lawn looks rather tropical because of the Trachycarpus, another plant that we inherited with the house 30 years ago. When we arrived, it was kept in a tub in the conservatory. It got so large that we could no longer lift it in and out in the summer, so it was planted in the corner of this terrace and left to its own devices. It has thrived. It did collapse once. It lost all its roots on one side and we had to put a very large metal stake in to keep it up, but it is now thriving, has doubled in height, and as you may make out, the yellow patches of the palm are actually its flower spikes. Got 3 of them this year. The rather unprepossessing tree trunk in the middle is our gift to Sutton for many decades to come. It is a Californian redwood that was grown from a seedling, and though it is not as big as it will eventually be, it is one of the largest trees in the world when it gets to maturity in 100 years or so time. This is the bottom of the garden, the other half beyond the trees in the middle. There's a greenhouse at the bottom. These on the right are autumn raspberries, which need to be tied into their canes. And at the moment we have an absolute forest of alliums that again have self-seeded and seem to rather like the dry, powdery soil that we have. There's a lot of potatoes in, a net for some beans and some ordinary summer raspberries beyond the net. There's also a huge cardoon which needs to be kept in check. The problem we have with other trees, the trees are very small. When we moved here, the vegetable plot can get a bit overlooked. All the stakes are ready for the tomato plants, which do thrive down here in the dry conditions. And here's the greenhouse, lots of work in progress, lots of seedlings, zinnias, rudbeckias, amongst others, pepper plants, tomatoes getting ready to start really growing up their strings. On the outside of the greenhouse there's a rather lovely yellow rose which we grow over it. It creates a bit of shade. More irises, they're everywhere, these blue irises. And more Gladiolus byzantium. We've tried very hard to grow roses in this garden, but they don't like it. The exception are these two. There's a yellow one and a red one which grow up the side of the greenhouse, providing a little bit of shade in summer. It's a very, very beautiful yellow rose, and I can't remember for the life of me what variety it is, but it is incredibly reliable and produces a lot of very beautiful flowers in these lovely groups. It's not really a cutting rose, but it is very pretty. Looking back up the garden, you now see the house at the top of the steps. Two sets of steps, there's the lawn and then the terrace at the top. The cardoon. Over there, there's an awful lot more Gladiolus byzantium again, alliums, foxgloves, irises, a lovely yellow acer. This is quite a shady area. The irises like it in the spring because it does get quite a lot of light before the very large walnut tree above it comes into leaf. There's a very large Clematis montana on the fence. I think that holds the fence up. Looking back over here, more of the vegetable plots, potatoes or tomatoes, currants, autumn raspberries, another view full of alliums, foxgloves, irises, the odd peony that's still clinging on. There's a big clump of bright orange alstroemeria that aren't in flower yet at the top of that little path, and some different coloured irises, but they have gone over. More touches of tropical. And the cardoon. This shrub is rather interesting. It is a Pittosporum, which I believe come from New Zealand. They are pretty hardy, but a few years ago we had a very, very cold snap one winter where it got down to -15, and it killed off all the Pittosporums that I had in the garden. At that point I had 3 different varieties. I was very pleased to find seedlings in the garden, and this one has been grown from seed. There are 2 in the garden that I managed to get to grow from seed. They are very pretty shiny leaves. Sadly both the seedlings are the same type, and behind there there's a rather nice standard traditional English honeysuckle growing on the fence. There's another climbing rose behind, but that's not out yet. There's more of the solanum. Back across to the terrace and the balcony with the wisteria. Here we have the dahlias, all doing very nicely, many of them courtesy of Roger down on the row. They've been overwintered, then this time they got put straight into the ground. We really ought to take cuttings and do it that way, but we've never done it so far. They're on one side, and then there are a lot more which will fill up all this gap on this side. And many of them are pale yellows and whites, though there are some purples in amongst. At that point I gave up because of the strong winds that we've been having. Just to finish the video, this is the view in the evening, looking out from the balcony across the fens in the last of the sunshine, with the pot plants on the patio. Well, it's taken all day, but the wind has finally dropped, and now it's about 7 in the evening, and the other side of the garden is in sunlight, and you can see the trees more clearly. There's a large purple acer in the centre. To the right there's a very large walnut tree which produces a lot of nuts if we can get to them before the squirrels do. Coming back up the garden, there's a laburnum, a pink hawthorn, a large silver birch, there's the wind again, the sequoia, another laburnum, a dark-leaved ornamental cherry, and another acer. This one is the one with the bright green leaves. So, thank you for watching the video of our garden. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope that we will actually manage to do it for real with people coming around the garden at some point. It's over 20 years since we last did it for the National Garden Scheme. Maybe we should consider doing it again. But thank you very much, and as I say, I hope that you have enjoyed seeing the garden.